Hey folks, I'm totally not named Dan, though you can call me that if you want. And if you've been watching my videos, you'll probably have noticed there's a new set on the way for UniVersus, formerly the My Hero Academia card game. But this set, a little bit different. It's the first set we've had in a good few years that's not actually My Hero. This one is Yu Yu Hakusho, specifically Yu Yu Hakusho 02, the Dark Tournament arc. So it's bringing back some of the old Yu Yu Hakusho cards so that newer players who've started since, what, 2018, 2019 when we had the last set, actually have some access to the old Yu Yu cards. With this, however, there's been a bit of confusion because some of the old keywords have been coming back which haven't actually been used in My Hero. Specifically, Desperation and Safe, and I've seen so many people ask, what does Desperation mean? Because UVS Games just haven't told anyone. Which seems a pretty odd choice on their part. But I've explained it in one of my previous videos. I think it's time I explained it again, because my last keyword video is a little outdated at this point, and all that's really needed right now is to go over the returning stuff. So, Desperation, which we'll start with because it's the big one, first saw print in 2007 in the first SNK set, but is more well known for 2018's use by Jasco in the Mortal Kombat expansion, where Scorpion made it completely ridiculous. So looking at Scorpion, we don't actually see the Desperation keyword on its own, we only see it on an enhance. This is important because Desperation comes in two forms. It comes as a keyword that cards that you play can have, and as a gate for other abilities. As a gate for abilities like it is here, you are considered to be in Desperation and able to use the ability if you are below half of your printed health. So for a 28 health character like Scorpion, that's at 13 or below. For a 29 health character, that would be 14 or below, because half would be 14.5 and 14 is clearly below that, right? So in this case, Scorpion actually wants to get down to 13 health so that he can give all of his attacks +2/+6. Because, you know, +2/+6, that's ridiculous. It kills people. So the solution here is get Scorpion down to close to half and then kill him on the next turn, right? Well, problem is Scorpion's own abilities help him get down. And that wasn't enough on its own. But once he started getting cards that supported that as well when the set actually released, because he was an early promo, then he could control going into Desperation very easily and have that kill turn of +2/+6 on everything. And he became a tournament staple character. And yeah, that's what Desperation does on an enhance. Desperation can limit forms to only when you're low half health the same way. It can do the same for responses. And this has actually existed within My Hero. The big one being set 3, they released a couple of starter decks, one of which contained Quick to Act and the other one Daunting Message. Both saying if your current health was less than half of your maximum health, you could get the effect of the ability. To be fair, you could still use the enhance even if you weren't in Desperation. But you had to be in Desperation to get the effect of the enhance, and both were some pretty darn good enhances. So yeah, it's not as if this hasn't existed in My Hero before, and there have been a whole load of other cards that do things similar in My Hero, but this is the first time I've actually seen it written on cards as Desperation since My Hero came out. So really, it could do with being keyworded, especially as there is a character, the new Kuwabara, that specifically cares about being at 15 or less health when that's roughly half. They could very easily have made that a Desperation ability and then said underneath what Desperation was in reminder text. But they chose not to. They chose to only put Desperation in the returning cards and not reminder any of them, which seems kind of crappy. But yeah, that's Desperation as a gate for other abilities. Desperation on its own, however, is a little bit different. You'll see a bunch of cards, especially old ones, but there are a couple of returning ones as well, which specifically have Desperation X, where X is a number. While you are at Desperation, this card's difficulty is X. X equals the rating of the Desperation keyword granting this ability. And it's important to note for characters like, say, Godzilla, that this does not change the printed difficulty. There was a time in the game's history when it did. That's no longer relevant. But this generally is a sort of comeback mechanic. If you're behind on health and you're in Desperation, you will have the ability to play your cards for a lesser difficulty. Unless, of course, the card is in Lord Raptor's clutches, in which case suddenly the difficulty is greater because they were playing around with something back then. But it basically means Botan's attacks are both 3 diffs, which is crazy. And then also sword get longer becomes a 4. That's the main thing that this means. So yeah, if you see Desperation as a keyword with a number, that means while you are below half of your character's maximum health, the difficulty of the card counts as whatever that number is instead of the printed value, but it's still not the printed value. If you see Desperation in front of an enhance, response, or form, that instead means you can only use this enhanced response or form if you are in Desperation, if you are at less than half of your max health. Then we get to the second ability that's coming back. This one, I think it's not been around quite as long as Desperation, but it's still been around for quite some time, and this is Safe. Safe simply says attacks cannot be played as a reversal to this attack. What this means is not important to you. Reversals do not exist outside of retro and legacy formats, so the vast majority of players will not be affected by the safe keyword at all, but the safe keyword is there and it does have associated text, so this is not considered a trait. Monoma, for example, cannot give cards safe, and Study Group Leader can remove the keyword, and likewise, for Ryukyu, this does count as an ability, so if a card has safe and no other abilities, it still won't let her draw that card. But that's about all safe does. It counts as an ability. It doesn't really do anything in this format. Its text is irrelevant because it just stops another keyword that doesn't exist in standard. And yeah, those are the two keywords we have returning. Just be aware of what they do and keep an eye out for your opponent going into Desperation, because while we've had a few Desperation-like effects before, the fact that it's a character whose support is basically all 3 diffs in Desperation is absolutely ridiculous. You will get backswung massively if you leave your opponent at those numbers. That's all for today. Bye.